Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Tao Te Ching. Today, we're tackling Chapter 5. And this is one that can really, well, it can hit you sideways at first. It challenges our deepest desires, really, for a universe that's, caring.
Hmm.
We often want the cosmos to be this kind parent, right? Always looking out for us, our feelings.
Yeah, we project that onto it.
Exactly. But what if? What if it operates on principles completely indifferent to all that, to human sentiment? What if it treats us, as Lysy puts it, like straw dogs? That's the stark idea, the really powerful idea he asks us to consider here.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is how this chapter, some early commentators actually call it the function of emptiness,
Yeah.
presents this universe that, you're right, can seem cold, maybe even ruthless when you first read it.
Ruthless is a good word for that initial feeling.
It is. But, as we'll get into, Laozi isn't, he's not being cynical, not really. He's offering this incredibly profound insight into how reality actually operates.
Yeah.
It's about stripping away our human-centered ideas,
Yeah.
our projections,
Yeah.
to see something deeper underneath.
And we've got a great range of perspectives to help us do that today. We've looked at classical commentaries, people like Hesheng Gong, Suzy, but also modern analyses from scholars like Chen Guiying and Zhang Jing, even some cultural insights from Yu Qiu. So our mission really is to pull out the key nuggets from all of these. We want to help you understand what Laozi truly means by straw dogs and this idea of keeping to the center, because it's less about judgment, I think, and maybe more about liberation.
That's a great way to put it. Liberation.
Okay, so to really ground ourselves, let's hear the core text first. This is Chapter 5 from the D.C. Lau translation. Heaven and earth are not benevolent. They treat the myriad creatures as straw dogs. The sage is not benevolent. He treats the 100 clans as straw dogs. Is not the space between heaven and earth like a bellows? It is empty without being exhausted. The more it works, the more comes out. To talk over much is to be exhausted. It is better to keep to the center.
Right. That first line, heaven and earth are not benevolent.
Wow, that
Yeah.
it lands differently, doesn't it?
It really does.
It feels harsh, almost fatalistic.
Is Laozi saying the universe is just cold and uncaring, or is there, like you said, some kind of freedom hidden in that impartiality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it really gets to the heart of a common misunderstanding. That term, buran, not benevolent, it's a
Mm.
direct pushback against the Confucian idea of ren, of human-centered compassion,
What?
that core virtue.
But Laozi doesn't mean cruel or unkind. That's not it. Across centuries of interpretation, scholars pretty much land on impartial, unbiased,
Yeah.
without emotional
It's
preference.
partial, okay.
Think about it like this. The sun. Well, it doesn't shine any brighter on a so-called good person, does it?
No,
And a storm doesn't suddenly decide to skip over a virtuous village.
right. Makes sense.
Heaven and earth, in this view, operate on these natural indifferent laws. They treat everything, Yushi tolerant is a phrase sometimes used, with absolute equality, no favoritism. Like Suzy put it so beautifully, things live and die naturally. It's not because heaven is being cruel or because heaven is being benevolent. It's just process.
An objective, natural process, not a cosmic parent judging us.
Okay.
But then, the straw dogs. If heaven and earth aren't cruel, what's with that metaphor? Because it sounds so disposable, it makes us feel kind of insignificant.
It does. And intentionally so, I think. Chúgǒu, these straw dogs, were actual ceremonial objects in ancient China, made of straw, obviously. And before a ritual, they were treated with great reverence, decorated, handled carefully.
Right.
But the second the ceremony was over, they were trampled, discarded, no second thought.
Wow, okay.
Their treatment was based entirely on their function at that specific moment, not on any kind of emotional attachment or inherent value beyond that function.
Right. Function, not feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this metaphor, which seems so harsh when you unpack it, it actually offers this profound liberation, like we were saying. It's Laozi's way of showing us the universe isn't out to get us. It's not punishing us when things go wrong or when our time is, well, up.
Yeah.
It's just operating. It's not targeting you personally. You're just part of this vast, impersonal, natural flow,
Yeah.
this cycle. And what's really interesting is how this perspective can actually free you up. Like the modern scholar Qianzong Xu pointed out, the universe's actions are wuxin, unintended, or maybe, without specific intention, not rinzhen, which means cruel or hard-hearted.
Unintended versus cruel. That's a crucial distinction.
Really is. Understanding that difference, moving from that human-centric why me
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
to a more impersonal, okay, this is happening, how do I align with it? That's a core takeaway here. It lifts that burden of feeling victimized, right? And allows you to respond with more clarity, more resilience, even when life throws really difficult things at you. Some later interpretations, like Transcendent King's, influenced by Buddhism, even connect this to a kind of universal compassion, but it's compassion born from non-attachment, from seeing all things as part of one whole process.
That makes a lot of sense. Shifting from seeing the universe through my own personal emotional lens to recognizing its impersonal natural quality. That feels like a major shift. Okay, but if the universe operates with this impartial, almost detached quality, where does all its power come from, its creativity? Laozi gives us another image for that, the bellows. The space between heaven and earth is like a bellows.
Yes, and the bellows metaphor, it just perfectly reinforces that core Taoist lesson. Real power, sustainable power, comes from emptiness.
How so?
Well, think about a bellows. What is it? It's basically hollow, right?
Yep.
Empty space inside.
Yeah.
Yet because it's empty, it can draw in and push out this theoretically limitless supply of air.
Right, it needs the emptiness to work.
Precisely. The universe's creative energy, Laozi suggests, is infinite because it stems from this productive void. This emptiness isn't nothingness, it's potential. As Suzy pointed out, the power comes from being empty yet inexhaustible. It's not about some clever plan or conscious effort from the universe. It just is, flowing from that emptiness.
So emptiness isn't just lack, it's the source.
Exactly. And connecting this to the bigger picture, this wasn't just some abstract cosmological idea for the commentators. People like He Gong, way back in the Han Dynasty, they took this right down to human cultivation, personal practice.
How do they connect it?
He suggested that if you can clear your own internal space, specifically the 5 organs of desires and clutter, then your shenming, your spirit or your vital energy, has room to actually reside there and thrive. Your own body becomes like that powerful, inexhaustible bellows.
Wow. So inner stillness, inner emptiness leads to personal vitality.
That's the idea. Through that inner quiet, that lack of internal noise, a deeper, truer kind of energy can emerge in your own life.
Okay, so we're meant to grasp this impersonal flow, the power of emptiness. What does Laozi say we should do with this understanding, practically speaking? He gives that advice near the end. To talk over much is to be exhausted. It is better to keep to the center. What's the center, and why is talking over much so bad?
Well, talking over much, Du Yin Shu Shang, isn't just about, literally speaking too many words.
Right. It feels symbolic.
It is. It symbolizes excessive action, excessive interference, trying too hard to control things. Especially in governance, it was often interpreted as jingling fan ko, too many fiddly, troublesome rules and commands, constant meddling.
Trying to force things instead of letting them flow.
Exactly. This doing too much, acting purely from your own subjective will, your own ideas about how things should be, instead of aligning with the natural way. Well, it just leads to exhaustion, burnout, and ultimately it fails. It's the opposite of away, non-doing.
So what's the alternative? Keep to the center, Shakehead.
To keep to the center is to align yourself with that quiet, receptive emptiness of the Tao we were just talking about, like the bellows. It means holding on to that zheng, that empty core within yourself. Chen Gang makes an interesting point here. He contrasts it with the Confucian idea of yujinzheng, which is usually translated as moderation or the golden mean. Chen argues Laozi's shengjing isn't just about finding a middle path between extremes. It's more profound. It's about maintaining a state of shushing emptiness and stillness.
It's less about external balance, more about internal quiet.
That's a key interpretation, yes. It's from this place of deep internal quietness that true, effective, sustainable action can arise naturally. Now, it's worth noting, not everyone sees it exactly that way. Zhang Jing, for instance, interprets shengjing as being closer to the Confucian idea, emphasizing the principle of guayu buji, meaning too much is as bad as too little.
Okay.
So for Zhang Jing, it's not about not developing, but about not overdeveloping, finding the appropriate measure. But even there's a sense of avoiding excess. And Han Shan King, coming back to him, he calls shengjing a true gongfu, like a real dedicated practice for progressing on the path. It's something you actively cultivate.
This has massive implications for leadership, doesn't it? If a truly effective leader sometimes needs to be not benevolent in that impartial sense, what does that actually look like? Because I know I've certainly been guilty of talking over much in my own work in life. Thinking more effort, more rules, that's always the answer.
Oh, absolutely. It turns a lot of conventional leadership wisdom on its head. A leader practicing this might make decisions based on the health of the whole system, the whole organization, say even if it's tough on individuals sometimes, impartially, not playing favorites.
Right. Seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly. And crucially, trusting their team, trusting people to function within their own cycles of work, rest, creativity, without constant micromanagement, without that excessive interference. It really challenges that common idea that Qinsheng, diligent governance, always equals good governance. We have this image, right? The leader working tirelessly day and night.
Yeah, we assume that's the ideal. The harder they work, the better.
But Laozi, and actually later Chinese history, offers some really interesting examples.
Yeah.
They suggest maybe not. Think about, say, the Zhongzhen emperor in the Ming dynasty.
Yeah.
By all accounts, he worked himself absolutely to the bone, exhausted,
Oh,
and he lost the empire.
wow.
Contrast that with someone like Emperor Wen of the Han Dynasty. He practiced a much more Wu Wei style of governance, Wu Wei Erzi, governing through non-doing, essentially.
Yeah.
Less interference. And his reign, along with Emperor Jing's, is seen as this golden age of prosperity, the rule of Wen and Jing.
That's a really powerful counterexample. So the hardest worker isn't always the most effective leader.
Not necessarily.
Right.
There's a great story in the Lu Shi Chunqi about Miziding. He was a student of Confucius, actually. He governed a place called Danfu. And he was famous for Minkin Erzi, governing by playing the zither.
Seriously, playing
Yeah.
music.
Well, it was symbolic, mostly. He achieved incredible order by delegating wisely, trusting people's natural inclinations, and basically not meddling constantly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, another official in a nearby area, Wu Maki, worked himself ragged day and night, trying to control everything. And Mizijin's region flourished with minimal effort, while Wu Maki, despite his diligence, was exhausted and, frankly, sometimes caused more problems with all his activity. The real wisdom, Laozi suggests, is knowing when to act, and crucially, when to step back and let things unfold. Respecting the natural rhythm, not constantly trying to chasing to control or restrain everything.
That's a really different way to think about effectiveness, letting go of control to actually achieve more.
Yeah.
Okay. So how can we, those of us not governing empires or playing the zither, how can we bring this ancient wisdom into our own lives, this understanding of impartiality, emptiness, inner stillness?
Well, this leads perfectly into a very simple, practical exercise you can try, drawn right from the spirit of this chapter. Let's call it the naturalist's observation.
Okay, I'm listening.
This week, just find a few minutes. Go outside or look out a window. Find some natural process happening. Clouds moving, maybe. Ants working on the pavement. Leaves falling.
Right.
Anything.
Right.
Your only task is to just watch it, observe. And this is the key part, try not to project a human story onto it.
What do you mean?
Don't think, oh, that cloud looks lonely, or, wow, those ants are working so hard, they must be tired.
Resist anthropomorphizing.
Exactly. Just observe the event as a neutral, impartial process. See the cloud moving because of wind currents. See the ants following chemical trails. See the leaf falling due to gravity and, seasonal change. It's just a small exercise. But it's a way to practice seeing the world, just for a moment, as heaven and earth might see it, without our layer of emotional bias and storytelling, simply seeing what is.
I like that. A small step towards experiencing that impartiality directly. So, Chapter 5, it definitely challenges that deep-seated desire we have for a universe that, cares about us personally, that can feel unsettling.
It can.
But maybe in place of that, it offers something else. This freedom that comes from accepting impartiality. And maybe tapping into that deep, quiet power that comes from inner stillness, keeping to the center.
I think that's right. It encourages us to shift our focus away from this constant need for frantic doing towards valuing being and allowing, recognizing that often the most effective action, the most sustainable action, actually arises from that place of quiet, of non-interference. It's about embracing a bigger, more objective view, which paradoxically might reduce our own anxiety and give us more clarity.
So here's something for you to think about this week. In a world that is constantly pushing you for more action, more intervention, more noise, what might actually shift in your own life or maybe in your work if you really leaned into this wisdom? The wisdom of not benevolent impartiality and the power of keeping to the center, something to ponder.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. It's been fascinating. Next time we'll be looking at Chapter 6. We'll explore the mystical spirit of the valley and the concept of the mysterious female as the very root of creation. Should be interesting.
Looking forward to it. We hope you'll join us then.